This experience happened in 2008 when I was plagued by chronic pain that was diagnosed as fibromyalgia. This pain was unbearable. The pain prevented me from sleeping and forced me to constantly move, stretch and massage my muscles in bed. This condition severely interfered with my sleep. I was constantly tired and my energy during the day was greatly affected. My doctor recommended a medication that, while it would not improve my sleep, would alleviate the pain I was experiencing. When I took this medication, I noticed that my nose felt very uncomfortable, but the pain seemed to be relieved to some extent. I was hesitant to continue taking this medication because I suspected that I might have an allergic reaction to it. I told my doctor about my concerns. He responded with a smile on his face and said that the amount of medication I was taking was too small for me to experience any serious side effects. He seemed confident in the safety of the drug and tried to allay my concerns. One night, after I had taken 3 pills, I went to bed. I had just laid down for a few minutes when my whole body gradually became numb. This caused me extreme discomfort and panic. As time went on, the inside of my nasal passages began to swell, a condition that prevented me from breathing freely at all. I felt like an immobilized mummy. Suddenly, a strong suction came from the top of my head. My body gradually lost consciousness, as if I was detached from the real world. The next scene became exceptionally mysterious. I realized that I was not alone. I was surrounded by many other people. We were lining up to cross a portal. This portal was emitting different colors. I completely lost control of my body, as if I was being dominated by a supernatural force. After going through that portal, I came to a place that looked like a waiting room. The place aroused my curiosity, so I began to scrutinize the people and things around me. A group of teenage boys suddenly walked in. The strong odor of alcohol permeating them. A female came into my line of sight. She looked to be in her late 40s. She noticed me watching her and came over to talk to me in a friendly manner. She confidently told me that she was very proud of her body. However, I also noticed something strange. Her skin color looked very unusual, as if it was caused by prolonged exposure to the sun. Her hair seemed to look very unnatural, the color was clearly incongruous, as if she was wearing a wig. I continued to walk forward. Suddenly, a young woman approached me with beautiful eyes and red hair. Then she sang an impromptu song for us. She sang beautifully. When she sang at a high pitch, her red hair seemed to become brighter and even longer. It was a very interesting scene. Everyone in the place was busy talking, as if it were an energetic social event. Suddenly, I noticed a man enter the room. He exudes a special aura that makes me feel very safe. I walked toward the man. I began to realize that he appeared to be a teacher or guide. He had died in a traffic accident, and his former occupation was that of a truck driver, a hardworking and humble Latino man. His presence made me feel more at ease. He told me that he had come here to help these people because they had lost themselves in life. He sounded caring and responsible, as if he had taken on an important mission. He told me that these people had come to this place because they had committed suicide. I was a little puzzled. He explained to me that any behavior that could lead to one's own death is somehow considered a suicide. I was shocked by his explanation. This place seemed to be for those lost souls. This man could help these people find inner peace and guidance. He went on to explain that in the process of terminating their lives, these people would have a period of rest. This time can help them recover and grow. They need to learn how to love themselves more. This time would purify their souls and remove negative emotions and experiences. I was very confused and asked him, "If these people are dead, what state am I in?" He gently explained that I was in an in-between state. As I was about to walk out of the room, suddenly a couple of men came at me. One of them was saying, "He's alive, grab him." They tried to pull me back to them as if to stop me from leaving. Suddenly, I felt myself moving upwards. In this moment, I felt like I was wrapped in endless love. There was someone who had been next to me, and his face radiated a dazzling light. I began to travel through the universe and I saw something of words and numbers moving in front of me. In that moment, an infinite amount of information flooded my brain. This information seemed to reveal the whole truth of the universe. I started at the age of 5, and even the simplest mathematical concepts puzzled me. However, during this amazing experience, when I was presented with a plethora of mathematical formulas and math, I was actually able to understand them, which was exhilarating. After this experience, I found myself surprisingly in love with numbers, a state that still persists today. During this experience, time seemed to lose its concept. The wizard suddenly appeared to me at some indeterminate moment. Here, many things seem to happen simultaneously and exist independently of each other. Many experiences seem to be so intertwined that it is difficult to describe them in a sequential order. As I looked back on my life, that guide did not judge or chastise me. Even though I had hurt many people in my life, all I felt throughout was unconditional love. It was as if I was given a precious opportunity and gift to be able to step back and understand myself more fully. During this experience, I was able to feel exactly what the people around me were feeling, as if I had access to their inner world. I experienced their worries and their joys. This allowed me to understand the effects of my former behavior and the harm I had done to others. I began to feel guilt and repentance. This feeling did not come from an external source of blame, but from my own perception of my behavior. Here I did not have a direct image of God, but I was able to feel God's presence. In my inner imagination, God is usually an image of a wise man in a big white robe, sitting on a throne. However, this experience also made me realize that God is omnipresent and exists in everything, transcending any image or gender. While there, I also saw many planets. They were revealed to me in a variety of different forms and colors. One planet appeared to be submerged in water, a marvelous sight that is hard to describe. Finally, my eyes came to rest on the Earth, which looked like a floating jewel. As I gazed at the planet, my guide told me that it was time to return to my homeland. Upon hearing those words, my emotions began to become mixed. It felt as if my mother was going to turn away from me and leave me in a completely foreign place. It was a moment of great shock and hurt, like a piece of glass being dropped on the ground. The guide approached me and he encouraged me to be strong. Then he signaled me to look to my left and I saw a school bus parked in the distance. A child stepped off the bus and I immediately recognized it as my daughter, who was only 4 years old at the time. She came up to me, took my hand, and said in an innocent voice, "Daddy, who will take care of us when you are gone?" These words touched my heart deeply. I replied, "Honey, I will stay by your side." Then my daughter got back into the school bus. I looked at my guide and then at the earth with fear in my heart. I cried and told him that I still didn't want to leave. He said to me, "Look to your right." I saw my mother. This is what she looked like in the future. She looked very tired and upset. As I tried to get closer to her, the image faded away. The guide said, "Do you see it? It's time to go back. I cried and said, please. I don't want to leave you. Suddenly, we seemed to melt into one. For a moment, I felt an inner peace, as if an electric current had passed through my body. Then I returned to my home. I walked towards my body and tried to make a connection with it. I tried to wake it up. But I couldn't. I tried to wake my wife, but my voice couldn't seem to reach her. This silent cry made me feel even more desperate, as if I were trapped in a dream world. I did not know what would happen next. The guide was beside himself and said that you must gather energy in your throat area. This will trigger a release of energy and your wife will hear it. I didn't quite understand why I had to do this, but I tried over and over again. After a while, a surge of energy gathered in my throat area. I focused my attention and tried to trigger the release of the energy. Suddenly, my mouth opened and I let out a scream that was full of power. My wife awoke with a start when she heard my scream. She anxiously asked, "Honey, what's wrong? What's wrong?" She kept shaking me. Through her hand, I felt an electric current run through my body, as if her touch had awakened my senses. She stood up and quickly turned on the lights in the room. Even though my eyes were still closed tightly, I was able to perceive the expression on her face. Her face turned pale and her mouth opened very wide. I had never seen her look so terrified. She screamed my name over and over again. I felt the electricity begin to move across my skin. With time, I gradually came back into my body. I took a deep breath. When I woke up, my wife asked me if I should call the emergency services. I firmly replied, "No, I'm fine. Don't call anyone. I just need to sit down and rest for a while." Although I wanted to tell my wife about it, I still needed time to organize the information. Since I've been back, I've been feeling really good. My health has gradually improved and I've gotten stronger. It was a miracle, a rebirth for me. To my surprise, the next day, I suddenly lost my desire for meat. Since then, I have been living a vegetarian lifestyle. I choose to consume many organic foods and try to avoid chemical-laden foods. My diet became purer and healthier. This shift not only affected my health, but also changed my lifestyle and values. I had a wonderful time after returning to my body. During this time, my perception seemed to become incredibly strong and I was able to see light emanating from humans and things around me. All of my senses became more acute, which allowed me to experience all sorts of amazing things in life. I find that many things in the world have become more interesting and enlightening. I can perceive emotions and energies, which gives me a deeper understanding of relationships and life. At the same time, however, I have also experienced experiences that have been frightening and unsettling, as these new perceptual abilities have sometimes left me feeling out of sorts. However, these special abilities did not last too long. After a while, I suddenly realized that these abilities began to fade away. One day, after I walked into a church, I noticed a lot of people surrounding a woman and everyone was comforting her. After everyone had dispersed, I walked up and asked what had happened. The woman sadly told me that her daughter had died. She sadly pulled out a picture of her daughter and I recognized her from the first moment. Intuition told me that I had met her daughter in another world. She told me that her daughter grew up with a love for singing and dreamed of becoming a singer. I vividly recalled my encounter with her daughter. Her hair was red and made a lasting impression. I told this mother about my experience. I told her everything her daughter had told me. It all made perfect sense to her.